Welcome to Tunisia, a land of ancient mysteries and vibrant history. Did you know that Tunisia was once home to the powerful Carthaginian Empire? Founded by the Phoenicians in the 9th century BC, Carthage was a dominant maritime power. The Carthaginians were famed for their seafaring skills and fierce warriors like the legendary Hannibal, who crossed the Alps to challenge Rome. But Rome triumphed in the Punic Wars and Tunisia became part of the Roman Empire. The city of Carthage rose again, this time as a major Roman city. Behold the grandeur of El Jem, one of the largest Roman amphitheaters in the world, right here in Tunisia. In the 7th century, Arab conquerors brought Islam to Tunisia, shaping its culture and architecture. The stunning medinas and mosques you see today are a testament to this rich heritage. Fast forward to the modern times, Tunisia was the birthplace of the Arab Spring in 2011, igniting a wave of change across the Arab world. From ancient empires to modern revolutions, Tunisia's history is a tapestry of diverse cultures and epic stories. Dive deeper into this
Hello everyone and welcome to... This is Africa, and here's Libya. Now let's go, shall we? 9/10 of Libya consists of desert, but it wasn't always so. Ancient rock art reveals a far different place, brimming with life no longer to be found in its borders, including giraffes with curly tails. As the millennia lumbered by, a change in climate that even Greta couldn't stop saw the greenery lost beneath the scorching sands of the Sahara. Now the people group who would come to dominate Libya were the Berbers, but when exactly they arrived isn't known, but it was many thousands of years ago. As the centuries passed, the Berbers moved their livestock from place to place and even tried their hand at conquest. Libya's Berber Meshwesh tribe conquering Egypt in the 900s BC. Libyan pharaohs were still ruling in the land of the pyramids 2 centuries later. But back home in the 7th century BC, the first of numerous intruders materialized. The Greeks established 5 colonies in Libya. The first and largest, Cyrene, was enriched through the trade of a medicinal plant called silphium, which unfortunately is today extinct. Here's a temple of Zeus. The Phoenicians, meanwhile, founded what would become the future capital of Libya, Tripoli. Persian rule followed after Cambyses II stormed in and took over in the 500s BC, and the Persians remained in charge until they were expelled by Alexander's Greeks, who were naturally welcomed by the Grecian cities. Their reign continued under the Ptolemaic kingdom, until the Romans took charge of the region. Libya subsequently basked in an age of prosperity, particularly the city of Leptis Magna, the birthplace of Emperor Septimius Severus. And yes, that is a pretty awesome name. Meanwhile, the town of Ptolemais produced the Christian theologian Arius, whose controversial views concerning Christ's relation to God the Father were rejected by the congregated bishops at the Council of Nicaea in 325. As the Roman Empire toppled, Libya was conquered by the German Vandals. Then the Eastern Roman Byzantine Empire reclaimed the region and ruled until the 7th century, when the Arabs thundered in and the caliphs of Islam took control. Libya thrived under the Aghlabid dynasty of the Abbasid Caliphate. The Roman irrigation systems, long neglected, were revived, and the land enjoyed a time of plenty. The Shia Fatimid Caliphate followed until the 10th century, when an Algerian Berber dynasty arose and reigned, and then another Berber dynasty took power, both of which gained noteworthy wealth from agriculture and trade. After quite a geopolitical jumble, the Ottoman Turks conquered the land in the 1500s, though the region of Libya gained considerable autonomy or self-rule under this dynasty, during which time, however, there was conflict with Western powers, who were cracking down harder than ever on North African piracy in the Mediterranean. The Americans scoring a major victory against Libyan forces in 1805, ending the First Barbary War. The Turks thereafter began to rule Libya more directly. Here are some photographs of Tripoli in the late 1800s. This is a bread market, and here are some Turkish soldiers drawing water, with a very dignified-looking camel seated majestically before them. 1911 signalled yet another calamity for the country, as the Italians invaded and made it one of their kingdom's colonies. This here is the determined face of Amr al-Mukhtar, the Lion of the Desert. He led a long campaign of resistance against the invaders, harassing and raiding Italian forces and outposts until his capture in 1931, when he was hanged aged 73. Today he is honoured as a national hero. The Libyan people suffered immense pain and grief, and many thousands of lives were lost due to the Italian occupation. But then, as it usually does, something happened. World War II. Libya was a focal point of the North African campaign, in which Italian forces were defeated by the Allies. After the war, Libya was administered by the British and the French, but in 1951 it declared independence, and Idris I became king. A few years years later, oil was discovered. Lots of it. That meant money. Lots of it. And money typically means corruption. Lots of it. King Idris simply didn't use the oil revenue to build up and improve the nation, and revolutionary murmurs accumulated with compound interest. In 1969, the king was overthrown in a military coup headed by socialist colonel Muammar Gaddafi. A divisive figure, Gaddafi nevertheless did a lot of good for Libya. Infrastructure and human development were enhanced. Societal economic reforms, from healthcare to housing, were introduced, and he funded the world's biggest irrigation project to supply fresh water to the coastal cities. Gaddafi increasingly angered the United States by his support of the Palestinians against Israel, which honestly shouldn't have surprised them, as he had earlier kicked out all Jews from Libya. Gaddafi was accused of supporting multiple rebel and terrorist groups. He also wanted to take over this bit of land from Chad. Relations with the West worsened, and after Libya organized a terror attack on Americans at a Berlin nightclub, President Reagan ordered a series of airstrikes on Libya. Gaddafi continued to rule until 2011, when, in the thick of the Arab Spring revolutions, Libya was similarly set ablaze by impassioned masses seeking change. The country collapsed into civil war, NATO supporting the rebels. In October, Gaddafi was captured and gruesomely executed. The war ended, and tens of thousands of Libyans were dead. Now, in times of chaos, it isn't unusual for various militia groups to pop up, and one of them here was Ansar al-Sharia. In 2012, they attacked an American facility in Benghazi, killing the ambassador, an act of violence condemned by the Libyan government. In 2014, Libya crumbled into civil war once again, until the year 2020. Libya today, despite its troubles, possesses a high level of human development, the sixth highest in the African continent, its economy almost completely reliant on oil. But as always, the question remains, what awaits Libya in the years ahead? Comment below, but for now, bye-bye! Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. This is Africa, and that is Chad. Now, let's have a look, shall we? This forlorn, barren-looking scene is in Tibesti, northern Chad. Thousands of years ago, the land here was good and green. How do we know? Because of ancient cave carvings of cattle munching on grass. Times changed, and the Sahara stretched its sandy limbs, and so, since there wasn't much amid the nothingness here, except shrikes, jackals, and horn vipers, but there was stuff up here, and stuff down there, you would have to travel up and down the desert for trade, and that's what happened. Various small, scattered indigenous tribes hunted and farmed from the desert to the verdant banks of Lake Chad. The Kanem-Bornu Empire encompassed much of Chad, and a trade line to Tripoli brought a steady supply of goods, as well as the influence of Islam. Muslim states like the Sultanate of Bagirmi arose, enriched by the selling of slaves captured down south. However, they were weakened by wars and petty feuds, and by the 19th century were no match for the European powers. France ended up getting Chad, but did not govern it as well as they did other colonies, though they did pump up the cotton industry. Independence came in 1960, but trouble was already brewing between the richer, mostly Christian South and the poor Muslim North. The first president was a dictator who did an awful job of running the country. The Muslims kick-started a civil war, supported by Libya, and the president was assassinated in 1975. And no, things did not get better because of it. The war spread, and rebel leader Hissène Habré took the capital, became a dictator, and still the fighting went on. A coup saw Idriss Déby gain power in 1990. Another civil war broke out, and the recent venture into the oil business has been marred by corruption, with revenue being channeled to the military and associated government chums, instead of helping fix the country. Short of a miracle, there can be no quick cure to the troubles of Chad, and most of its people live below the poverty line. What lies ahead for Chad? Hopefully something better, but as for me, it's bye for now. Bye-bye. Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. This is Africa, and the republic in Africa's center is called the Central African Republic. Nicely specific. Now, let's get a quick rundown, shall we? First inhabited several millennia ago by Aka Pygmies, they presumably did not build the megaliths found in the country. Over the centuries, other peoples wandered into the land, settling along the banks of the Ubangi River. Now, as the tendrils of the Arab slave trade dug deeper into Africa in the 1600s, tribes in Central Africa were raided and people captured and carted off and sold across the Muslim world in places like Turkey or Egypt. This sort of thing Trading went on for centuries, with the Bobangi people making a lot of money selling their fellow Africans into servitude. The latter 19th century saw the French gain control of the country. Demand for rubber and ivory brought its own problems, and there were a number of uprisings that had to be quashed. The Catholic Church saw to it that schools and medical clinics were built, though the government taskmasters were not so charitable with their labourers. Barthélemy Boganda, a Catholic priest, opposed French colonialism and diplomatically pushed for independence. He would have become the first president, but died in a suspicious plane crash in 1959, a year before his nation's independence. This guy became president instead, and the country was bankrupt in no time. He was overthrown by Jean Bidel Bokassa, a deluded military dictator who proclaimed himself an emperor while his nation sank further into debt. Another dictator followed, and mounting divisions led to war, and from 2012, civil war, where unimaginable horrors have been perpetrated. Things are not good right now in the Central African Republic. Though brimming with diamonds, it is one of the poorest of all countries, with the world's second lowest human development index. Violence has destroyed this nation, and we can only hope it stops soon. But even if it did, it will be a long time before this heavily bandaged land can heal. So that's that thus far. Let's hope this goes no further and the future is happier. But as for me, it's bye for now. Bye-bye!